If I describe my investment portfolio, it'll look something like this. So my core portfolio comprises 90% of the total, which is a fairly concentrated portfolio, few very well researched holdings, and 10% of my portfolio I invest in slightly more speculative positions. Now, this comprises multiple small positions. Some of them might be through options, some of them might be private businesses, and these positions typically have very high optionality. The reward to risk ratio is very high. However, I'm fully aware that some of them will not work out and some of them might go to zero. Now, today, the idea that I'm going to present to you is it belongs here. It's one of these. Now, before I get in, the mandatory disclaimer, this is by no means a recommendation. I'm actually going to share with you a real trade, something that I have done last week. And, I found this trade very, very compelling and I wanted to discuss it with you guys. So let me know your comments and please do your own due diligence. It may not be for everybody. So I'm going to talk about this business called Jumia Technologies. It is a Pan-African e-commerce platform and it is listed in the New York Stock Exchange. The company's platform consists of the marketplace which connects sellers with consumers. Its logistics service enables the shipment and delivery of packages from sellers to consumers. And the company's payment service, which is Jumia Pay, facilitates transactions among participants active on its platform in selected markets. Now, this is a slide from one of their company presentations. You can see the different offerings they have on Jumia, and this is comparable to Tencent. I think they're taking that route. You can buy your smartphone, shoes, you can book a flight, you can find a hotel, you can pay your bills and do many other things. But you can even buy your groceries there. The company was founded in 2012 with a presence across Africa, and the group has been backed by investors like MTN, Rocket Internet, Millicom, Goldman Sachs, Orange, AXA, etc. Now, if you are a shareholder of MasterCard, which I know many of you are, you would be an indirect owner of Jumia. MasterCard and Jumia first worked together in 2016 with the launch of MasterCard Payment Gateway in Africa and the launch of Jumia Pay, which is the latter's payment processing service. Now, as part of the conditions of the agreement, Jumia will be building MasterCard's presence across Africa to help further expansion into new customer segments. Both companies will also be building on their current effort to accelerate the adoption of electronic payment platforms among consumers and merchants. So they together aim to drive cash out of the online retail sector and provide a more secure and convenient way for consumers to shop online. Many online purchases are still being paid for with cash at point of delivery as of now. Now, MasterCard also invested in this company and the total investment is about $56 million. The true potential of the online retail environment remains largely untapped in Africa, especially 7 out of the 10 fastest growing internet populations in the world are in Africa. Of course, the base is very small, and the company offers its services to various countries such as Nigeria, Egypt, Morocco, Kenya, Tunisia, Ghana, Senegal, Uganda, and Tanzania, among others. The firm generates a majority of its revenue from the West African segment. Jumia's footprint actually reaches a total population of 700 million people. That is the cumulative population of all these countries where they are operating. Now, Africa faces a shortage of many day-to-day desirable items in the traditional market, and Jumia has the potential to fill that void. As retailers have already laid out expansion plans for the Middle East and China, Africa is finally being considered as their next frontier, the next key global market. Now, Jumia provides sellers with an attractive value proposition. They work closely with many large brands, and there are plenty of local as well as cross border sellers who operate on the Jumia platform. And as you can imagine, this number is growing very fast. In countries like Nigeria and Egypt, almost 54% of the transactions are already done via Jumia Pay. And that leads to increased operational efficiencies, and also there are multiple growth avenues in the payment and financial services space. So Jumia Pay is gradually becoming very popular, and as I have mentioned before, they are working very closely with MasterCard here. So here is a comparative picture of how Jumia compares with the other e-commerce marketplaces in different geographies. Mercado Libre in South America, Alibaba in China, and Amazon in rest of the world. So this shows the various offerings which Jumia currently has as compared to some of the other more established companies. Now, this is not exactly a long and deep dive investment thesis on the business like we usually publish. I'm yet to research this business in depth, but I very much plan to do that. In fact, I actually plan to visit some of these countries next year and check out the situation on the ground. And I will keep you guys posted. There might actually be an opportunity for a small, manageable group of people to join me during the trip. Now, it would be relevant to mention here that I have lived and worked in Africa for some time in the past, and I do have some perspective from the ground. Now, it's very, very important for someone to be familiar with the ground situation in Africa, in the different countries, to develop an understanding of the businesses that operate there. Now, while I definitely see the potential and I will be watching them very, very closely, I will only consider investing once I'm fully convinced about the execution capabilities of the management team. And frankly, I'm still far away from that stage. I have literally just scratched the surface when it comes to research, and I still have a long way to go. So you must be wondering, why am I presenting this at all? Well, at this point, I would also like to tell you that sometime back, Citron Research, the well-known short sellers, they published a report on Jumia accusing them of several discrepancies. Some of what Citron has pointed out, some of these discrepancies, they might have some merit. Even though the overall report, I did not find it very substantial. In fact, most of the accusations are speculative in a way, and they have not been substantiated with the required proof. But that's beside the point. I mean, these guys, they have found some discrepancies, and they have talked about it. And they have also talked about instances of employee fraud. And interestingly, even Jumia has acknowledged that there has been cases of fraud committed by some employees, some of the marketing agents, that is external commission agents. And Jumia says that they have taken appropriate actions by terminating the employment of these employees. And of course, Mr. Market has spoken. So when Jumia went public, the shares listed at somewhere in the mid-teens, and thanks to the exuberance of the speculators, they took the share price to above 50, and that's when the short report came out, and you can see what happened to the share price after that. So, as we all know, Mr. Market reacts exuberantly when they expect that this company is going to go to the moon just because it's Africa, and this is a new frontier for growth. And when the short report came out, they panicked and they took it to the other extreme. And frankly speaking, punishing a business and thinking that it's worth less than zero just because some employees have committed fraud, I think it's quite ridiculous. This is just like saying if there's a rogue trader in JP Morgan who has committed some fraudulent trades, then the value of JP Morgan should be less than zero. I mean, this is crazy, and sometimes I actually love it when Mr. Market overreacts in either way, and because of such overreaction, opportunities like these exist. So I'm very happy to take advantage of these opportunities while the situation plays itself out. Before we talk about the special situation, let's take a quick look at the balance sheet of Jumia. Now, you can see that they are sitting on cash and cash equivalent of almost 333 million euros. These numbers are all in euros. And their total liabilities add up to about 118 million euros. So converting everything into USD, we have cash and equivalent of 366 million, and we have total liabilities of 130 million. So the net cash that will be left after paying off every single liability is USD $236 million. The total enterprise value of the company is $278 million. Now, for the new investors, enterprise value is nothing but the market cap plus the total debt minus the cash, so which is $278 million. The market capitalization, which is the number of shares multiplied by the share price, is 633. But if someone has to buy out the entire business, they will have to also take care of the debt of $11 million. But at the same time, they will own the $366 million of cash. So netting these off, that is the enterprise value which someone has to pay to acquire the entire business. And as we have seen, the net cash after paying off every single liability is $236 million. Now, even though the total book value of equity is $310 million, right now let's only focus on this net cash of $236 million. Now, what if I told you that we can position ourselves to buy this business for just $141 million? That is, buy shares of this business at a price which is corresponding to a market cap of $141 million, while the business is sitting on net cash after paying off every cent of liabilities of $236 million. So this is like getting the whole business for free, and along with that, getting a check for $95 million based on the current balance sheet. Let's look at the option chain of this business, and that is where some very interesting opportunities come up. Now, as of last Friday, the share price closed at 8.07, and here I am looking at the options which are the leaps which are expiring in Jan 2022, which is almost 2.5 years from now, and I'm looking at the strike price 3. Now you can see how elevated the implied volatility is, and that's all because what's happening to the market price of these shares. So the $3 strike option expiring in Jan 2022, the current bid ask is 95 cents. The bid is 95 cents and the ask is $1.40. I mean, the gap is quite wide. So last Friday, I just wanted to experiment. I put in an order to sell this option at $1.20, which is kind of midway between the bid and the ask. So I'm essentially positioning myself to acquire shares in Jumia at $3 per share minus the premium which I'm going to receive by selling these options. And you see the current open interest of 310. Out of that, 200 contracts actually belong to me. So I actually got filled on my order and I sold 200 contracts at a weighted average price of $1.18, and that brought in a total amount of premium of almost $23,627. Now, there can be various scenarios. The scenario one, let's talk of assignment. So if at all I get assigned on these puts on 21st of January 2022 or before that, I'm obligated to purchase 20,000 shares, which is 200 contracts multiplied by 100 shares per contract. So 20,000 shares of Jumia at $3 per share. So that will be a total position size of $60,000. Now that is the notional value of the entire position. However, assignment of the puts will result in an average purchase price of $3 minus the $1.18 of premium which I brought in. So that translates into $1.82 per share. Now, at the current share price of $8.07, the total market cap is $633 million. So $1.82 per share is equivalent to buying the business at a market cap of $141 million, while the business is sitting on net cash after paying off every cent of liabilities of $236 million. Now, this is a bit ridiculous, I must say. And to put things in perspective, MasterCard invested $56 million in the business at a valuation of approximately $1.54 billion just this April. So if we think that the assignment situation is a realistic situation, I mean, we are essentially saying that MasterCard has invested like a dummy, which, I don't really think they would have gone ahead with the investment without doing their own extensive due diligence. And they are working with Jumia for the last 3 years. In fact, since 2016, they have started working with Jumia. So they obviously understand the potential of this association. Now let's talk about scenario 2, if the puts expire worthless. That is, if the stock price stays above the $3 level. Now, I don't believe in selling naked options. So the fact that I have committed to buying $60,000 worth of shares, I have blocked this $60,000 for the possible assignment, however unlikely it might be. And I might just park this $60,000 in short-term treasuries and keep rolling them on maturity. So a premium of $23,627, that is after the commission that I have paid to Interactive Brokers, and that commission was just a measly $12. So this premium is like a float which I have generated upfront on a capital of $60,000, which I have reserved for this purpose. And that results in an XIRR of 24.26%, which in itself is a fantastic return on capital. Now imagine, if I did not do this trade, on this $60,000, I was barely earning anything. I mean, if this was just parked in the US Treasuries, I was probably making some 1.5% yield on this $60,000 of capital. So because of selling this option and bringing in an upfront premium of almost $24,000, I have taken my return to almost 26%, which is 24.26% for this particular put, and plus the yield on the treasuries which I have parked the capital in. So that will still accrue, right? So this money, this 23,627, this is available for investment right away. And there are several interesting ideas in which this money can be deployed. Now, of course, I can just take this money in and just put it in some of my other core positions, or I can actually use this in some other interesting option trades which will actually further increase the yield that I'm receiving on my capital. And you can see that when the implied volatility of the options are so elevated, the option chain throws up very interesting opportunities. It can be like a gold mine. And as I've explained, I do not believe in trading options with open risk. I will never sell a naked option, and I always look at my worst case scenario before doing anything. And in this particular trade, I mean, if I just sit on that $24,000 without investing it, and my maximum commitment is $60,000, so essentially my maximum risk is $36,000. But I'm of course not going to just sit on that $24,000. I'm going to invest in it, and that is going to generate a return. And this is how Warren Buffett has been using options, and he has very elaborately explained it in his shareholder letters starting 2008, and that's where I have got the idea of using options in this particular way. Now, I will be very soon creating some other option trades using these funds that I have generated, and I will be showing you how we can significantly increase the returns. So I would encourage you to register on moneywisesmart.com/research. Once you click there, you will be taken to our research platform where you can register for free. It is completely free of cost, and going forward, I will be sharing these option trades. In fact, this particular trade I will be tracking over the period, and I will also maintain full transparency. I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do with this trade, and there might be interesting adjustments which I might do from time to time, as the market price moves. Now, there is of course a possibility that I'm totally wrong on this, and this company actually gets hammered. So in such a situation, I'm also going to show you how I can significantly reduce the risk. I mean, my risk will never be zero, but how the risk can be significantly contained using other forms of option trades. So I'm also going to talk about that and show you some examples over time, and I'm going to publish those trades also on the research platform. And of course, you will also have access to the in-depth research that we will publish from time to time. And I also invite you to join our investment forum, which is the Facebook group on which we keep discussing interesting businesses and various investment concepts. If you have found this video useful, please hit the like button and do subscribe, because we keep publishing interesting videos from time to time. Thank you very much for your time.